Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. If you're a first-time listener, we are glad to have you. This is the Campus Connection by Doc Owen Show, one of our weekly shows that is completely dedicated to campus activities, things we spot, things we find out, research in terms of not just college campuses, but high school campuses, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's our target is we deliver truth to youth, so we figured we would dedicate one show a week to campus activities and totally focused on it. We also have a show prior to this. This one is on Wednesday. We've got one on Monday called Saint Cities by Doc Owen Show. It's all about sanctuary cities and its kissing cousin immigration activities. And then our usual Thursday night live broadcast that goes out across the networks on Friday and Saturday in some places, just the plain Doc Owen Show. So we are glad to have you. We are all over the social media, primarily Facebook, both St. Cities and Campus Connection. And by the way, it's spelled with a K, K-A-M-P-U-S, Connections with a K. Campus Connection has a Facebook page. St. Cities has one, as does Doc Owen Show. Go out, find it, follow it, like it, comment on it, give us some feedback. We really would appreciate it. And we're on Twitter as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. Follow us. We've got apps for both Apple as well as Android devices. Those are absolutely free to you. And when you go out there, you will be able to listen to our entire library of shows going up. I don't know whether it goes all the way back all 4 years or not all 3 years on the Doc Owen Show, but pretty close.
Yeah, I think here and there towards the back end, but more consistent.
Yeah. I mean,
last couple of years.
Yeah. So there's plenty to listen to and get brought up to date, as well as some very interesting interviews. Doing this gives us an opportunity to talk to some very interesting people. You're going to hear from one of them tonight. It's a very long-term friend of mine. I don't say old friend because here I need that reference. But we've known each other for over 50 years, and
then you just saw him a couple of years
exactly.
ago.
So kind of got caught up to date and staying in touch with not just him. It's a fellow by the name of Joe White, who is a very accomplished author. He's written, I forget now, 15 to 20 books on Christianity and the youth movement, because that is totally what he's all about. He runs a summer camp where you're going to find out he entertains about 18,000 high school and junior high school children from all over the country.
And the main location there I got to see too is really, really nice. Very beautiful country.
Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
I went there back in the day when it wasn't Branson, Missouri. I mean, it is what is now called Old Town Branson. So, anyway, let's dive right into it, since this is our Campus Connection, and I know, and we will hear from Joe what the percentages are, but not everybody gets to start their school day in what we consider to be the proper fashion. So we're going to have our standard Pledge of Allegiance as done by Red Skelton. So it's not just the pledge, it's an explanation of the pledge that goes along with it. So listen up. Take it away, Mr. Skelton.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, O glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
I had to go back a little further than I just didn't want to rely on my memory. The 2 states that have been added obviously are Alaska and Hawaii. And Under God was added in 1954 at the request or urging of then President Dwight David Eisenhower. So just for your information as to where it came from and how long it's been in there.
That's good to know. I didn't know about that last part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I recall that it was when I was in school. Because we said the pledge every day, and all of a sudden we added that part. And so I remember having to rememorize, make sure that we did that on a daily basis. If you say something first thing every morning, trust me, it doesn't take very long for it to sink in. And I think very powerful. Let's talk a little bit. The title of this article is Politics on Campus, which is near and dear to Campus Konnection, needless to say. And it's a report put out by a couple of guys. Well, no, this is not the one. Sorry about that. It's the next one. There are 2, this talks about college Democrats and college Republicans. Those are the 2 primary political parties that are represented, not the only ones, but the two primaries. So you got the College Republican National Committee and Young Democrats of America. Between them, they have over 1,500 chapters nationwide. Okay?
Wow.
So that they really are big. Student activism usually lends itself to participation from all sides of a political spectrum. So now I'm sure we have libertarians, we have Green Party, we have no party affiliation, just political activists going on campus, which is a good thing. In 2010, the College Republican National Committee's Operation Red November program sent volunteers to 32 of the most competitive political races of the season and helped the Republican Party gain victory in 28 of those races. So the young people contributed in a big, big way to the Republican. If you'll recall, that was the somewhat lopsided victory of Republicans in both the House and the Senate. That's when they wound up taking control. So, and the most politically active colleges, needless to say, this is kind of a well duh, are found in Washington, D.C. Okay. And, you know, they are Georgetown University, George Washington University, and American University. Those are the three that are considered to be the most active. They're right there in D.C., obviously the topic of conversation all over town. That's what that town is all about, is politics. So it goes on. This is something that I found real interesting about this article. It talks about student politics, and it's got three little bullets down here, tips and tactics about what you should do if you want to get involved. It's a bit of a no-brainer. It talks about attend events and meetings for both parties. As a matter of fact, I still do that. So you don't want to confine your thought process to one, because actually both parties can add value. If you get too caught up in one, you become, jaded or something. You know, I don't know exactly how to put it, but you get kind of, ensconced in their way of looking at the world, and it's not necessarily always it's not the only way to look at it, and sometimes it's not even the best way. So you don't want to just blindly follow a political party, particularly when you're in college. If you have an opportunity to sit in with one or the other, or go sit in with the independents, I mean, you know, that's what college is all about, is broadening your horizons.
That's true.
And there's no penalty, there's no guilt, there shouldn't be anyway. So, you know, hang out, you know, go talk to some folks that might think differently than you. You might learn something. And so might they. It works both ways. Here's one that I continue to preach. Don't just focus on national politics. Stay involved with local elections as well. Despite the fact that local issues are often neglected due to a lack of exposure on television, the internet, etc., they actually have a bigger impact on your day-to-day life. In turn, you can have a bigger effect on the outcome of the elections. Mm-hmm. I did a paper way back when, undergrad school, political science was my major, on the calculus, because I started out in engineering, the calculus of your vote. And actually, you know, did some mathematical formulas, etc., that demonstrate what to me was kind of obvious, and that fewer people vote in local elections than vote in national elections. Turnout during a presidential year is much, much higher than turnout in a non-national election year.
That's true.
All right?
Very true.
And some places your local elections will be held at a time when they're local elections only. And so turnout goes way down.
Oh, yeah.
But think about this. That turnout number is the bottom of the divider. You're the voter, you're the number one, you're on top. And then you're divided, you know, by the number on the bottom, which is the turnout. And that's your percent of what you contributed to the vote that particular time around. Well, if the number on the bottom is smaller, then your impact on the vote is actually greater when there's fewer people voting, mm-hmm. right? Perfectly mm-hmm. logical. So, local election, and besides that, You don't know, but what you might not be at somebody running for school board. You might be voting for a future governor of your state. You might be voting for a president of the United States. That's a young man that is involved and wants to start at the school board or the city council level and work his way up through the hierarchy of politics. And when you're getting active, always be respectful of others. I mean, just because you don't agree with their opinion, there's no reason to get ugly about it. And sometimes it's hard, but
that's true.
And the older you get, the harder it gets, but you still got to do it. You got to be respectful of others' opinions. That's how this country works. One more brief little thing, and we're going to try to get these folks on the Campus Connection radio with us. It shouldn't be too hard to do. But there's two fellows that work for NBC 10 up in Pennsylvania that are going on a tour of all the campuses around Pennsylvania during this election right now. They call themselves the Battleground Brothers. Maybe they're from Gettysburg or something. But they call themselves the Battleground Brothers. And they are, the first thing they did was visit the Pew Research Center, but they come up with some interesting numbers that I thought I would give you. That 41% of millennials identify as independent, 34% identify as Democrat, and 25% identify as Republican. However, when they were asked which party they leaned toward in their political affiliations, lean toward, not just member of, 54% of millennials either identified as Democrat or lean toward Democrat. And that Democrat lean is larger, actually more than 10%, than any other generation group in recent history. All right? So, we need to understand that when they're asked what the major problem is or the major challenge in this election, they say the economy. And I've not heard either candidate talking a lot about the economy. Trump talks about it from time to time about getting jobs for everybody, etc., which goes to the millennial problem, actually, or one of their concerns, is because they have grown up during what is called the Great Recession. Not the Great Depression, but the Great Recession. They've softened the blow a bit. And it wasn't as bad as the Great Depression. And they're facing challenges when it comes to paying for school, buying a home, and finding well-paying jobs. So the economy is top of mind to a lot of millennials. I mean, it only goes to reason. And then they've got an article. I'll publish this on the Campus Connection Facebook page because it goes on and dives into some numbers, some percentages about whether they think it's going to get better or worse, and in effect, just bottom line, starting in the generation before the boomers, which were called the silent generation, the generation that was born 1928 to 45, and then the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials. The millennials' view is consistently lower. In other words, their views of some of these topics is not very encouraging. They're not as excited about America as previous generations. Let's just put it that way without boring you with the numbers. That's the general feel of it. We're going to take a little brief 1-minute break, grab a sip of water, and then when we come back, I'm going to introduce an old friend of mine and let you listen to a conversation that we had about current day youth, I guess is a good way of putting it. So we will be right back.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Paraswabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of Paraswabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Paraswabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Paraswabs risk-free, call 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. If you're just joining us, you are listening to Campus Connection by Doc Owen Show. This is Richard Owen, joined in the studio by...
I'm Surefire.
There you go. We're going to play something that basically we recorded a couple of years ago, 2014. I don't remember exactly when, but everything about it is absolutely true and pertinent today. And it was a conversation that we had with a friend of mine by the name of Joe White. Joe, if you Google him, you can Wikipedia him, you can look up his background is quite impressive. And he and I have known each other since I was in the 7th grade. I think he was in the 3rd or 4th grade or something like that. But you can figure that out from the conversation. So let's listen to Joe White, and we will be back afterward.
This is Joe White.
Joe White, this is Richard Owen. Doc, Rick.
Hello, Richard.
How are you, sir?
I am doing better than I deserve. What about you?
I'm doing fabulous. Well, you and I get a chance to be 13 again. I don't. Yeah. What a pleasure to talk to you, and what a pleasure to catch up with you. I am so impressed.
You too, Richard.
I am so impressed. You've done an awful lot with your life. I'm getting goosebumps. I think it's great.
We're having fun.
There you go.
We're having fun. It ain't over yet. It ain't over yet.
Well, do you still do the? And by the way, I've got the record button on, but I get to edit all of this, so we can have our conversation. Just a kind of catch up opportunity. Do you still do? I went out and looked at some of the pictures. I swear I'm in that one that you show the fire circle and where we used to have the Cherokee and the Choctaw competition. Do you still play those games?
Nothing has changed, buddy. Absolutely, nothing has changed.
Ain't you something? But one of my
same brown bodies, just different smiling faces.
There you go. And I want you to know I've still got my little honor fish tripper paddle.
Come on.
Hanging on the wall,
Come on,
Bubba.
Richard.
Absolutely. That's one of my proudest possessions. It's
unbelievable. Richard, what year did you graduate from high school?
I graduated in 63. So
okay.
Best I can figure, you were in... Pardon me?
Yeah, I thought it was 63 or 64.
Yeah,
I was 66, so we're up there together.
You were in Peggy's class, I think.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
I just went to my 50-year class reunion and wound up being the facilitator and the spokesperson, kind of pulling it all together. And
oh, my goodness. One
of the things that I told them, and I have told everybody all my life, said, where did you grow up? And I said, what was it like, et cetera. And I've always referred to it as Mayberry RFD. If you saw if you watched that TV show, that was my life as a youngster. It was very very idyllic. So
it was pretty simple in those days out there in the shadows of Kyle Field. It was pretty simple.
Our parents were very, very good to us, putting us in that environment. And I mean, on the one hand, we were protected, and on the other hand, it made the reality of adulthood a little stark for some. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right. What's this all about?
So you've done wonderful things. I mean, the camp, it is way beyond. I mean, I remember your dad. I was a camper for 2 years, and then a work boy my 3rd year, and so. My 3rd year, I was allowed to go down into what we called the slough, which was the backwater down there by the swimming hole, and clean that out. And your dad had us put in I remember it was an 8-cylinder Oldsmobile engine that he rigged up with a pull to teach the skiers that had never skied before. It was a place to begin skiing in shallow water and, without the fear of being drugged behind a boat in big old Taneycomo Lake. So.
Yep, that lasted about 1 year. I'll never forget that. I was the test monkey, and I think I killed myself on that thing.
Well, at least
he
had a family member doing it, right?
Exactly. We were expendable.
Yeah. So I noticed it when I was going out and looking at your bio and trying to catch up. Some of the numbers to me are absolutely amazing, Joe, with what you've done with the concept. And the reason I reached out to you was because the lesson I learned there and have quoted all my life is I'm third. I mean, I don't remember the entire story. Shame on me. But I do remember God first, the other fella second, and I'm third. And it has been, I mean, I'm going back 50 plus years of something that I carried forward with me through the camp. I didn't necessarily always brush my teeth every day like we were measured on. I think we had you guys had us checking so many boxes it wasn't funny. Served me well when I got to the Naval Academy, I will tell you that for sure. There were some training.
I'm proud of you for that. Proud of you for that, by the way.
Yeah,
the I'm third Kanakuk principle. God first, others second, I'm third. Based out of the Book of Matthew, when the lawyers of the day asked Jesus, "What is the greatest commandment?" He said, "Love God with all your heart, soul, and might, and love your neighbor as yourself." And so the I'm third philosophy of putting God first, others second, and I'm third, it has been the Kanakuk motto for 89 years since we started in 1926.
26.
But the fun thing about that, here we are in 2014, and the fun thing about that motto is I see kids living out that motto in a very hostile culture that is everything but God first.
Yes.
I was speaking in a high school this morning, and they actually did the Pledge of Allegiance, where they say one nation under God.
Yes.
And, that is probably 5% of the schools in America, if that many, still say one nation under God.
Is it that low, Joe?
But even though the culture is that intense, for kids to live in, where there is no more God, there is no more Ten Commandments, and it's mostly just drugs and sex and rock and roll, I see kids. We work with 18,000 kids a year at all these camps.
Yes, sir.
But I see kids doing things God first, others second, and I'm third, with boldness, Doc, like I have never seen kids before, ever. This generation has got some great Christian leaders in our high schools today.
That, as you know, that's the purpose of this outreach. That's the purpose of my show, is to reach out to what the media calls the millennials, anywhere from 16 to 26 years old. So some of them still attending your camp. Others are probably counselors, and the vast majority of them may be what I'll call graduates. I think I have some of the same concerns that I hear in your voice. It's not about politics, although that's what started me down this path. I learned very quickly that it was not about Republican or Democrat. It needs to be about things that cut across party lines. But we've lost, and then it has become about the values that we've lost. And that's the reason I reached out to you, was because you still adamantly not only promote those values, but help young people understand why they are valuable, why we need to hold on to them.
Well, let me tell you about some of our Kanakuk kids, just to encourage every listener and to encourage high school students and college students who are listening and parents who are listening.
Right.
there is a segment of the young population, the student population, that are doing things that your generation and my generation never dreamed of. There's a girl up the road, plays public high school basketball. She's one of our camp kids. And she got the idea, God first, other second, and I'm third. And she took it back to her school. And God told that little girl, now she plays public school basketball. She's 14 years old, scores between 20 and 30 points a game. She's quite a young athlete. But God told her to lead a Bible study before every game. And she started doing that. And by the end of the season, the whole team was at her locker, public school basketball. They win the state championship. And instead of just getting the state trophy, she asked me to come over and do a youth rally. And 400 kids show up because of this one 14-year-old girl's faith for them to receive their state championship recognition. And dozens and dozens of those kids, including players on her team, gave their hearts to follow Christ and become God first, other second, and I'm third. This fall, that little girl, now 15, in volleyball, she's captain of the team. She goes to the other team captain before every game, the opponent, and asks them if they want to join hands and pray in a circle in front of the whole grandstands. Two teams holding hands, praying in a circle before they compete against each other in a very rigorous public volleyball competitive league.
Right.
And every time that I know of, the other captain agreed, and they hold hands and pray around the court.
Wow.
One boy comes to us, tattoos all over his body and a very difficult past, drugs and alcohol. He comes up here and he gets the idea, God first, other second, I'm third. And we have a link here for high school graduates to spend 1 year with us in their freshman year of college. This boy chooses to come here for a year and study. And one of the speakers gives him $20 and asks him to go do something extraordinary with that $20 for somebody else. God first, other second, I'm third. He buys $20 worth of peanut butter, and he feeds dozens of homeless people, has raised now several $1,000s, has fed over 800 homeless people peanut butter and crackers in little sack lunches that he makes. We've got other kids that are given dozens of kids, who are giving all of their birthday money so that they can support an inner city child to come to one of our urban inner city camps. Mm-hmm. We have one girl who made 1,000 headbands so she could support dozens of children in Haiti at one of our schools in Haiti. And Doc, I could tell you stories until this radio show was over about kids who are out there in this difficult peer climate making a huge difference. God first, other second, I'm third. It is a bold millennial generation that the press never talks about.
Exactly. And I feel that's our challenge as the adults in the room, is to get them that exposure. I get the feeling you feel the same way. That's why you do what you do, not just for a living, but do what you do as a human being, is to help them help them not feel protected, but what am I trying to say? Help bring that out in them, that's a good thing to do, and they will be rewarded for it. Is that am I saying it right?
Well, absolutely. You know, at our camps, with our travel camps, our inner city camps, and our suburban and rural camps, like I said, we have 18,500 kids a year,
that's
2,500 staff,
that's just
2,500 college students that serve.
Yep.
And I literally, because there's so many kids who come here, and they come from every background under the sun. We get the poorest kids in America, and we get kids that are well off.
Yep.
But from every background in America, I see these kids encouraging each other to go back and live a life in their public schools, in their Christian schools, and in their homes that makes a difference in their world. We got one little girl named Jordan. She's from Boulder, Colorado. And every day her teacher gives the kids an opportunity to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's voluntary.
Okay.
And that little girl stands up every day by herself, because it's not politically cool to say one nation under God. And she stands up by herself and does the Pledge of Allegiance every single day. By the end of the year, her teacher started standing up with her, because she saw the boldness of this little girl to stand up alone, to say one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the fun thing about camp, and it's true for our inner city camps, it's true for our suburban camps, whatever, is that these kids are encouraging each other
Right.
to go back and live lives that are different than the rest of their culture. And as a result, we got 2 young men who went back to their high school, and they formed a club called Mr. Clean Team. And they have several hundred kids over on Saturday night, and they do parties when everybody else is out drinking alcohol and doing drugs and doing porn.
Right.
These guys have an alcohol-free Saturday night club that they started. I'm talking about high school kids,
Right.
that hundreds of kids have participated in. This generation is it's an exciting. I never met a high school boy who didn't have a good heart.
Well, and
He may be in trouble, but if you believe in him long enough, he's going to start believing in himself.
right.
And God's going to do something with his life.
It's the self-belief that is so strong that needs, all it really needs is the slightest amount of encouragement as it goes along. And I know that it's the nurturing capacity and capability that I felt at Kanakuk that you are still providing. Granted, it's so much larger, it's on a so much grander scale, but what I hear you saying, and I felt was going to be the case, it's still a one at a time environment. In other words, you know what I'm saying? The one heart at a time. There you go.
When a student comes here to our link year or to our college graduate year, or to be a camper with us for just a week or 2 or 3 in the summer, he's one of one. Our motto is one heart at a time.
Interesting.
Because Cal Farley, who's probably the best youth worker of all time, who started the Boys Ranch up in Amarillo, he said, I never saw a boy go bad who had at least one good adult friend.
Interesting.
And our counselors
Yes.
believe in their kids until the kids believe in themselves. Doc, let me give you an example. I coach the football team here at camp. I've got about 12 college, athletes who help me coach these football kids. We have 30-something sports, but football's one of them.
Wow.
So I'll have 50 or 60 kids in the football camp. There's cheerleading and sailing and canoeing.
Okay, so you didn't leave my cheerleading squad out, right?
And Survivor camp, and we teach kids how to fly airplanes and scuba dive. I mean, you name it. But I have the football kid.
Right.
And our goal as a football staff, and we're talking about these big college players, our goal is that every player hears his name 10 times a day with something good attached to it. I want every Billy and every Bobby and every Sam and every Michael to hear something that he does well 10 times a day and to tell that kid about it. And Doc, I don't care how hard a kid is or how difficult his background is or if he's fatherless or whatever. If you get college guys who believe in kids that much, they're going to start believing in themselves. And then you put God into the equation and give those kids a relationship with Christ. And boy, they go back to their teams and they change the whole environment of their locker room.
What a pleasure just to hear about it, because having experienced it, I know exactly where they're coming from, and you do too. That's what helps reinforce it. Do you foster that ongoing? Do you use social? I'm real big on social media. I'm real big on. I spent 25 years in IT, so I'm big on understanding the positive nature that it can provide. I'm already seeing it with what I'm doing. Do you do that as well? Don't you find them hooking up with each other on Twitter? In other words, they help maintain that kind of camp environment amongst each other even after they go back out? Good.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we Instagram, we blog, we tweet.
Yep.
And the kids that come to camp, and a lot of the kids come and they're on fire for God and they're doing it right. And a lot of kids come that are lost and hurting.
Sure.
But the peer pressure here is to do it right. The peer pressure here is to come to Christ, give your heart to God, live God first, others second, I'm third. And then throughout the winter, these kids, they may be the only one in their school that they know of who's not drinking alcohol. They may be the only one in their school who's not partying and chasing girls.
Right.
But they've got kids all over the country who are the one and only in their school, who are there texting and Instagramming and blogging and writing, with,
yes.
and they encourage each other to make it through their high school days and to change their high school. God first, others second, and I'm third.
Right. I had a young man on not too long ago that just to tell you one of the stories that I've run into, that as a sophomore, he's in New Jersey. He lives in New Jersey. He was in New York City during the Occupy Wall Street movement, and basically as a sophomore in high school, and he was just kind of roaming around and taking it all in. And then where he heard people talking about major issues and et cetera, and then he went back to his high school the next day, and he heard in the hallways people talking about concerned about what type of tennis shoes so and so was wearing, or all of the various normal peer pressure things. He started a thing called Fight Apathy to get his high school friends involved in bigger issues, not necessarily a truly Christian movement, but what I would call a Christian maneuver, where he wanted others to see the bigger picture and not focus on things that were not important. At the end of 2 years, he has 75,000 followers and members of his movement across 20 states in the United States, all via social media, where that many people have come forward, and all he did was he started the day up at the front of school, and he gives everybody a sticker, Joe, and the sticker says, "I believe in ... And the young person would fill in what the ... was. And they would wear those around all day, and it would start a conversation with others. I found it totally intriguing, not just from what he's been able to accomplish, but the method by which he accomplished it. And I wanted to share that with you. It's a really interesting approach.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah. Kids are too naive to know how difficult things are going to be. Adults, we sit around and ask questions and worry and fear, and kids they're too dumb to know the difference. And they'll climb mountains that we would be afraid to climb, because and the ones who know God, I mean, they've got a gigantic God who spoke the cosmos.
Yes.
And they know that with Him, our favorite verse around here is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yes.
And these kids take that and literally they go out and do things that you and I would have never dreamed of.
When in your, if I may ask you, and since we're old-time friends, I think I can. When did you really feel the calling to get so immersed and so dedicated in your Christian world?
Well,
that's a bad way of saying it.
I got to be a counselor up here in the summertime. I was a camp counselor.
Okay.
And honestly, it was working with kids over the years that fired my engines up. I loved. When I was playing football down at SMU and coaching at Texas A&M, I loved coming up to this camp in the summer and coaching football with kids. And so when you work with kids, you can't help but get on fire. And by the grace of God, I studied medicine in college, but it was working with kids that gave me more, excitement and passion than anything else in the world could have done. And, I'm 65 years old, and it's more fun now than it's ever.
I wish you hadn't said that. Now people are going to know how old I am. Dad, burn it. I noticed you're smart enough to have a black and white picture on on some of your stuff, so I can't tell whether it's gray or blonde.
Exactly.
I think
kids don't care.
No, I know.
Kids don't care. They all need a grandpa in their life.
Well,
and so I get to be their grandpa.
Exactly. They hear the truth of your message. Speaking of that, I found out not too long ago that this coming August I'm going to be a great grandfather. So wait till that one settles in.
How good can it get?
I'm way too young for that.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying. Joe, I can't tell you enough how impressed I am with what you've done and flattered by you taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat, just because I know how solid your message is. I have not necessarily, I've not been as faithful to the message, and yet on a big scale, when I'm looking back on it, I really have. I don't necessarily, you know what I'm saying? I have at every opportunity taken advantage of the lessons I learned at Kanakuk. And I have a daughter that hit some hard times in her teenage years, and she volunteered herself to go into a program that was a summer camp, where it wasn't really a summer camp, it was an all-year camp. They went to school, they were out in the woods, they had to dig all their own stuff, and I would go up and visit her and take her out in a canoe, and we'd paddle around, and I was showing her how to fish and stuff like that. And, I never will forget one of her phrases when I was talking to her. She said, Dad, this is not Kanakuk. Because it was not designed that way. So apparently I've probably preached it more than I realize I have.
Mm-hmm. Well, God's been good to this place. He still is today.
And I would venture a guess that he will be in the future. We need your graduates. We need the influence of your graduates out there. It's very enheartening and should be supportive to other folks in the same boat or in the same age group.
We call it the Kanakuk Leadership Experience. We believe every child was born to be a leader. They just have to awaken that gift that's inside their heart. That's our job, and we love the challenge.
You may not be aware of this, but I didn't get my PhD until I was 63.
Fantastic.
And it's in leadership studies. With all of my research into ethics. I got it at a very fine school here in San Antonio called Our Lady of the Lake. It was so nurturing. I think that is what reawakened Christ in me and my desire to get more involved and put that back. Plus, I looked around, and all of my friends are very similar to you. So it was like, when's Richard going to really join us and get dedicated to this program?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. That's awesome.
Congratulations. So it never goes away, as you well know.
I heard that. I heard that.
It may lay dormant for a while. You may have some of your graduates or some of the folks that go through your program that don't immediately strike out like the examples you've given me. But I would submit to you that, as you well know, no matter how long it lays dormant, it's in there. And it's just a matter of something triggering it to bring it back to the forefront.
That's good.
Thought you'd like to know that.
I appreciate getting to visit with you today,
Joe,
Richard. I really am thankful, and I'm thankful for this radio show and what you're accomplishing on it.
God bless you, sir, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Oh, and you the same, Richard. It's been delightful interviewing with you today.
We'll have a good time later on again, I'm sure.
Okay. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir. I'm proud of you, too. Thanks,
Keep it up.
Bye-bye.
All right, Doc. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 877-212-5898. Again, 877-212-5898. That's 877-212-5898. 877-212-5898.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to Campus Connection by Doc Owen Show, and I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mr. Joe White as much as I enjoyed having it. It gives me goosebumps just to listen to it. Joe is a outstanding American and a real close friend. We all know that political correctness, we don't necessarily all know that, but political correctness is an issue. And no matter which side of the fence you land on, you know, the PC brigade is always there to tell you something about it. I found an article that talks about the most PC moments on college campuses in 2015. And this is not necessarily a totally encompassing list. It's just one that was put together that I thought you might enjoy as much as I did. There are just examples all over the place. Number one, they're not in any particular order. Hating pumpkin spice lattes was declared sexist. Okay? According to an article in the Phoenix at Swarthmore College, which is their student newspapers, girls don't get to have valid emotions. So if you, and they tend to like pumpkin spice lattes. So if you don't like them, you are sexist. Number two, a university language guide stated that the word American was problematic. According to Bias-Free Language Guide that was used by the University of New Hampshire, the word American is offensive and should not be used. Why? Because it fails to recognize South America and assumes the U.S. is the only country inside these two continents, of course. It recommends using resident of the U.S. as opposed to America. A university student declared that we have to accept people who identify as real vampires. That occurred at the Idaho State University College of the Canyons. The word skinny was deemed violent by the Language Awareness Campaign at Western University in London. Not just skinny, but also get over it. That was considered violent. A university declared the phrase politically correct to be politically incorrect. Seriously. I mean, that's what it said. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to have to cut to a couple of my favorites. A Harvard study declared that microaggressions can make people die sooner. If you don't know what microaggressions are, we did a show and explained it. I think it was number 2 or number 3 in Campus Connection, but it was good. And also that there's a war on pronouns. In October, Kansas University students' Senate voted to totally ban gender-specific pronouns such as his and her from its rules and regulations. In September, North Carolina State defended a lecturer's right to dock students' grades for using he or him to refer to both men and women. Here's the best part of it. You can't use he or she when referring to a student because some students might change genders over time. Aye. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.